Welcome, and thank you for being here with Daily Dharma Listening. Imagine this moment as a pause in the noise of your day, a small clearing in the forest of thoughts where you can finally sit down and breathe. You did not arrive here by accident. Something within you, perhaps tired, perhaps curious, perhaps quietly searching, has guided you to listen. This is how many paths in ancient Buddhist teachings begin, not with certainty, but with a gentle question forming in the heart. Long ago, the Buddha observed that human life moves like a restless river. People rush from desire to desire, fear to fear, rarely noticing the water carrying them forward. In the modern world, this river has only grown faster. Notifications flash like sparks, worries pile up like unfinished conversations, and the mind rarely feels at rest. Buddhism for beginners often starts with a simple realization: peace is not something you chase downstream. It is something you step into by learning how to stand still within the current. Consider a morning when you wake up already tense, your thoughts racing ahead of your body. Bills, messages, expectations, memories, all speaking at once. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to silence them by force. Instead, it invites you to listen differently. When the mind is treated like an enemy, it becomes louder. When it is treated like a child who is afraid, it slowly begins to trust. This is the first lesson in how to stay calm and positive, not by denying chaos, but by understanding it. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when we mistake passing experiences for permanent truths. Anxiety tells you a story about the future. Regret tells you a story about the past. Both feel convincing, yet neither exists in this moment. Buddhist lessons for anxiety often return to this point again and again. What you are feeling is real, but what it is saying may not be true. When you see this clearly, even briefly, something softens. The chest loosens. The breath deepens. The mind finds a small space to rest. Imagine standing in a crowded city street during a storm. Cars splash water, people hurry past, horns echo between buildings. You cannot stop the rain, but you can step under an awning. You can feel your feet on the ground. You can notice that you are still breathing. This is what it means to find peace in chaos. Peace is not the absence of noise. It is the ability to remain present without being pulled apart by it. Ancient Buddhist teachings speak often of fear, not as a flaw, but as a misunderstanding. Fear arises when the mind believes it must control everything to survive. Life without fear does not mean becoming reckless or numb. It means learning, slowly, that life can be met moment by moment. When you stop demanding certainty from the future, fear begins to loosen its grip. You discover that courage is not loud. It is quiet and steady, like the flame of a candle that does not argue with the wind, yet continues to burn. In everyday life, this practice is simple and profound. When a difficult email arrives, notice your reaction before responding. When someone speaks sharply to you, feel the urge to defend yourself without immediately obeying it. This pause is where transformation begins. Transform your mind does not require grand gestures or perfect discipline. It begins with noticing, again and again, how the mind moves, and choosing not to follow every impulse it creates. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that energy is precious. Every thought you chase, every argument you replay, every fear you rehearse, costs something. To protect your energy is not selfish. It is wise. Just as you would not leave your door open in a storm, you do not need to leave your attention unguarded in a noisy world. You can choose what you feed your mind, what you return to, and what you gently let go. There will be days when you feel lost, when nothing seems to make sense and the path ahead feels obscured. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost are not answers carved in stone. They are lanterns held low to the ground, illuminating only the next step. You are not required to see the entire journey. You are only asked to be present for this breath, this moment, this choice. As you continue listening to Daily Dharma Listening, allow these reflections to unfold slowly. There is no test, no finish line, no expectation to become someone else overnight. This path is about remembering something you already know, deep beneath the noise. That you are allowed to rest. That you are allowed to change. That peace is not distant or reserved for monks on mountains. It is available here, now, in the quiet attention you are giving this moment. If these words resonate with you, if you feel even a small sense of calm or curiosity opening within, consider staying with this journey. You may wish to subscribe to Daily Dharma Listening, to like and share this reflection with someone who might also need a moment of stillness. In doing so, you help create a small refuge in a loud world, a place where ancient wisdom meets modern life, and where the simple act of listening becomes a doorway to understanding. Let us continue, slowly, patiently, one moment at a time. Part 2. Learning to sit with the restless mind. There is a moment that comes quietly for everyone who begins to listen inwardly, a moment when silence does not feel peaceful at all. You sit down, perhaps after a long day, perhaps early in the morning, and instead of calm you meet a restless parade of thoughts. Memories surface without invitation. Worries line up like impatient guests. The body feels tense, alert, as if something important is about to happen. Ancient Buddhist teachings never hid this truth. The first encounter with the mind is rarely gentle. It is honest. In Buddhism for beginners, this stage often feels discouraging. Many people believe that a calm mind should arrive quickly, that Buddhist wisdom is meant to erase anxiety and replace it with serenity. Yet the Buddha spoke of awareness as a lamp, not a broom. It does not sweep the room clean. It reveals what is already there. When you begin to watch your thoughts, you are not creating restlessness. You are noticing it for the first time without distraction. Imagine walking into a dark room that has been cluttered for years. When the light is switched on, it can feel overwhelming. You see objects you forgot existed, corners you avoided, dust that has settled quietly. The instinct is to turn the light back off. But Buddhist teachings suggest something else. Stay. Look gently. Breathe. Nothing in the room is attacking you. It has been there all along. This is where many lessons on how to stay calm and positive are misunderstood. Calmness is not the absence of movement. It is the absence of resistance. When the mind runs, and you chase it, exhaustion follows. When the mind runs, and you observe it, something shifts. You begin to see patterns. You notice how certain thoughts repeat, how they rise with urgency and fade when not fed. This observation is not cold or distant. It is intimate and compassionate. Buddhist lessons for anxiety often return to the body as an anchor. Anxiety lives in stories, but it expresses itself through sensation. A tight chest. A shallow breath. A clenched jaw. Instead of arguing with the story, you feel the sensation directly. You allow it to exist without labeling it as a problem. In doing so, you discover a subtle truth. Sensations change. They move. They dissolve when met with patience. This realization is a doorway to find peace in chaos, not by controlling experience, but by trusting its impermanence. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a wild horse. If you pull the reins too hard, it resists. If you let it run without guidance, it becomes dangerous. The middle way is presence. You walk alongside the horse. You let it know you are there. Over time, it learns to trust your pace. This is how you transform your mind, not through force, but through relationship. In modern life, restlessness is constantly rewarded. Multitasking is praised. Constant stimulation is normalized. Stillness can feel unnatural, even threatening. Yet Buddhist wisdom asks a simple question. If the mind is always occupied, when does it rest? If attention is always pulled outward, when does it return home? Protect your energy begins with recognizing how often your awareness is scattered, and how rarely it is gathered with care. There is a quiet power in doing one thing at a time. Drinking tea and tasting it fully. Walking and feeling each step. Listening without planning your reply. These moments seem small, yet they rebuild something essential. They remind the nervous system that it is safe to slow down. They teach the mind that it does not need to be everywhere at once to survive. To live without fear does not mean eliminating uncertainty. It means becoming intimate with it. Fear loses its grip when it is seen clearly. Much of what we fear is not pain itself, but the idea that pain will overwhelm us. Buddhist teachings gently challenge this belief. They show, through direct experience, that emotions arise, peak, and pass. You are not broken by feeling. You are shaped by how you relate to it. When you feel lost, the mind often demands direction immediately. It wants answers, plans, guarantees. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost offer something quieter. Stay with not knowing. Let the fog be present. Clarity does not arrive by force. It arrives when the mind has space to settle. Just as muddy water becomes clear when left undisturbed, understanding emerges when you stop stirring it with fear. In the workplace, this practice might appear as pausing before reacting to criticism. In relationships, it may mean listening without defending yourself right away. In solitude, it may mean sitting with discomfort without reaching for distraction. Each of these moments is an invitation to return to awareness. Each is a chance to choose presence over habit. Buddhist wisdom is deeply practical. It does not ask you to withdraw from life, but to meet it with clarity. When you stop fighting your inner weather, you conserve energy. When you stop believing every thought, you gain freedom. When you stop demanding that the mind be quiet, it slowly learns to rest. This path is not linear. Some days the mind will feel open and spacious. Other days it will feel tight and loud. Neither state defines you. They are conditions, not identities. The practice is simply to notice, to return, to begin again without judgment. This repetition is not failure. It is training. As you continue listening, remember that the restless mind is not an obstacle to awakening. It is the material through which awakening unfolds. Every moment of awareness, no matter how brief, plants a seed. Over time, these seeds grow into patience, insight, and compassion. The journey is quiet, often invisible, yet profoundly transformative. Remain here, with this breath, this sensation, this listening. Nothing else is required. Part 3. The art of letting thoughts pass like clouds. There comes a subtle turning point on the path of awareness, a moment when you realize that thoughts are not commands. They are appearances. They arise, linger briefly, and dissolve, much like clouds drifting across an open sky. Ancient Buddhist teachings return to this image again and again, not to romanticize the mind, but to clarify its nature. The sky is not disturbed by the clouds. It allows them to come and go without resistance. In the same way, awareness is not harmed by thought. It is only obscured when we cling. In everyday life, thoughts often feel solid and urgent. A single sentence can loop endlessly, replaying itself until it seems undeniable. Worries about the future dress themselves as responsibility. Memories of the past disguise themselves as truth. Buddhist wisdom invites a quieter investigation. When a thought arises, where does it come from? When it fades, where does it go? You do not need to answer these questions intellectually. You only need to watch. Buddhism for beginners often emphasizes the breath as a foundation, not because breathing is magical, but because it is always happening. When attention rests on the breath, the mind begins to reveal its habits. Thoughts interrupt. Feelings comment. Judgments appear. Instead of pushing them away, you learn to notice their texture. Some thoughts feel heavy and tight. Others feel light and fleeting. This observation teaches you something essential. Not all thoughts carry the same weight, even though they all speak with confidence. This understanding becomes especially important when working with anxiety. Buddhist lessons for anxiety do not promise a mind free of fearful thoughts. They offer freedom from being ruled by them. Anxiety thrives on identification. It whispers, "This is happening to you, this defines you, this will never end." Awareness responds quietly. This is a thought. This is a sensation. This is changing. In this space between the story and the observer, relief becomes possible. To find peace in chaos is not to escape the world, but to see clearly within it. Chaos is amplified when every thought is believed without question. When you begin to see thoughts as events rather than truths, the world softens. Situations remain complex, but they no longer consume your inner life completely. You gain the ability to respond rather than react. The Buddha spoke of the mind as a mirror. When dust settles on its surface, reflections become distorted. Thoughts are not the dust themselves, but our attachment to them is. Each time you believe a thought unquestioningly, a layer settles. Each time you observe without grasping, the mirror clears slightly. This is how you transform your mind, not by replacing thoughts with better ones, but by changing your relationship to thinking itself. Modern life rarely encourages this relationship. The mind is constantly stimulated, constantly fed. Opinions are rewarded. Reactions are amplified. Silence is often treated as emptiness rather than space. Yet Buddhist wisdom recognizes silence as fertile ground. In silence, thoughts lose their urgency. They no longer compete for attention. They simply appear and fade, like ripples on water that eventually returns to stillness. Protect your energy begins with recognizing how much of it is spent following unnecessary mental loops. Replaying conversations. Imagining worst-case scenarios. Planning responses to events that may never happen. Each of these drains attention from the present moment, where life is actually unfolding. When you notice a thought looping, you do not need to finish it. You can let it pass incomplete. This simple act conserves immense energy. To live without fear does not require courage in the dramatic sense. It requires familiarity. Fear feels overwhelming when it is unknown and unexamined. When you sit with fear as a sensation, Without feeding it with narrative, it reveals its impermanence. It rises, shifts, and eventually subsides. This does not mean it will never return. It means you are no longer surprised by its presence. There are moments when the mind feels particularly loud, especially during stillness. This does not mean you're doing something wrong. It often means you are finally listening. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often point back to this truth. Confusion is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that old assumptions are loosening. The familiar ground is dissolving, making room for something more honest. In daily interactions, letting thoughts pass becomes a powerful practice. When someone criticizes you, notice the immediate story that forms. Defensiveness, justification, self-doubt. Instead of acting from this story, you pause. You feel the body. You breathe. In that pause, the thought loses its authority. You choose how to respond, rather than being pushed by habit. When alone, the practice deepens. You may notice how the mind seeks entertainment, how it resists quiet. Instead of judging this resistance, you observe it. You see how restlessness itself is just another passing phenomenon. Over time, the mind begins to trust silence. It learns that it does not disappear without constant stimulation. Buddhist teachings emphasize that liberation is not found by destroying the mind, but by understanding it. Thoughts are useful tools. They help you plan, communicate, and reflect. Suffering arises only when the tool begins to use you. When you believe every thought, you become trapped in endless commentary. When you see thoughts as passing clouds, you regain the sky. This way of seeing does not remove challenges from life. Loss still hurts. Uncertainty still arises. Yet there is a profound difference between pain and suffering. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering is the added story that insists the pain should not be here. When thoughts are allowed to pass, suffering loosens. You meet pain with clarity rather than resistance. As this practice matures, moments of natural stillness appear. Not forced, not manufactured, but spontaneous. A quiet awareness that does not cling to anything. In these moments, you glimpse what Buddhist wisdom has always pointed toward. Peace is not something you create. It is what remains when grasping falls away. Stay with this understanding gently. There is no need to rush. Clouds will continue to pass. The sky does not hurry them along. Neither should you. Part 4. When emotions rise like waves in the body. At some point on this path, attention turns from thoughts to something even more intimate. Emotions. Not as ideas or labels, but as living movements within the body. Ancient Buddhist teachings never treated emotions as enemies to be defeated. They were seen as natural energies, rising and falling according to causes and conditions. Trouble begins only when the mind resists them, clings to them, or builds stories around them that harden into identity. In modern life, emotions often arrive with judgment already attached. Anger is labeled wrong. Sadness is seen as weakness. Fear is treated as failure. Buddhist wisdom moves in a different direction. It asks you to feel before you interpret, to sense before you explain. When an emotion arises, there is first a physical signal. Heat in the face, tightness in the chest, a sinking feeling in the stomach. This is where the practice begins, not in the narrative that follows. Buddhist lessons for anxiety often emphasize this distinction. Anxiety feels overwhelming because it blends sensation and story into one indistinguishable mass. The body feels tense, and the mind immediately explains why. Something bad is coming. Something is wrong with me. Something must be fixed right now. When awareness separates these layers, space appears. The sensation can be felt without believing the story. The story can be seen without obeying it. Imagine standing by the ocean. Waves rise, crash, and recede. You do not try to stop them. You do not argue with their shape. You watch. You feel their rhythm. Emotions move the same way. When you allow them to pass through the body without resistance, they complete their natural cycle. When you suppress them or cling to them, they linger, repeating themselves in different forms. This understanding is central to how to stay calm and positive without denying reality. Calm does not mean numb. Positive does not mean forced optimism. It means allowing experience to move without obstruction. When anger is fully felt without acting it out, it transforms into clarity. When sadness is fully felt without pushing it away, it softens into tenderness. When fear is fully felt without panic, it becomes alertness. The Buddha spoke of mindfulness of feeling as a doorway to liberation. Feeling is immediate. It is always happening now. Unlike thoughts, which wander into past and future, sensations anchor awareness in the present moment. When you bring attention to the body, you return home. This is one of the most direct ways to find peace in chaos, because the body does not lie. It tells you exactly what is happening, without interpretation. In daily life, emotions often surge unexpectedly. A comment from a colleague. A message left unanswered. A memory triggered by a familiar place. The old habit is to react immediately, to speak, to withdraw, to distract. Buddhist teachings invite a pause. Feel first. Let the body register what is happening. In that pause, something remarkable occurs. Choice becomes possible. To transform your mind, you must first be willing to feel your life. Many people live in constant avoidance of discomfort, numbing themselves with noise, activity, or distraction. Protect your energy begins with noticing how much effort is spent running from feeling. When you stop running, energy returns. Not because life becomes easy, but because resistance dissolves. To live without fear does not mean the absence of fearful sensations. It means knowing that fear can be felt without collapse. When fear arises in the body, you breathe. You notice its shape and texture. You stay. Over time, fear loses its authority. It becomes one wave among many, no longer defining the entire ocean. There are moments when emotions feel too intense to meet directly. In these moments, Buddhist wisdom emphasizes kindness. You do not force attention into pain. You approach gradually. You may focus on the breath, or on a neutral part of the body, allowing stability to grow. Compassion is not indulgence. It is intelligence applied to suffering. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often return to this simple truth. Whatever you are experiencing is workable. Nothing needs to be rejected. Confusion, grief, anger, joy, all belong. When you stop dividing experience into acceptable and unacceptable, wholeness emerges naturally. In relationships, emotional awareness changes everything. Instead of projecting your feelings onto others, you recognize them as movements within you. Instead of blaming, you take responsibility for your inner state. This does not mean tolerating harm. It means responding from clarity rather than reactivity. Boundaries become cleaner. Communication becomes quieter and more honest. When alone, emotions may surface more clearly. Without distraction, the body speaks louder. Old griefs may rise. Unfinished feelings may return. This is not regression. It is integration. Each emotion felt fully is a chapter completed. Each wave allowed to pass leaves the water clearer. Buddhist teachings remind us that emotions are impermanent. This is not a philosophical idea. It is a lived observation. Watch closely and you will see it for yourself. No emotion stays exactly the same. Even the most intense feelings shift when met with awareness. This insight loosens fear of feeling itself. As this understanding deepens, a new kind of confidence appears. Not confidence in control, but confidence in presence. You know that whatever arises can be met. You know that awareness is larger than any single emotion. You know that peace is not fragile. It is resilient because it does not depend on circumstances. Remain with this practice gently. Feel what is here. Let it move. Trust the wisdom of allowing. Part 5. The practice of returning to the present moment. There is a quiet discipline at the heart of Buddhist teachings, one that does not announce itself loudly or demand dramatic transformation. It is the practice of returning. Again and again, you notice that attention has drifted, and you gently bring it back. Back to the breath. Back to the body. Back to the simple fact of being here. This returning is not a failure repeated. It is the practice itself. In Buddhism for beginners, many imagine progress as a straight line, a gradual ascent toward constant calm. Yet Buddhist wisdom describes the path more like a circle. You wander, you return. You forget, you remember. Each return strengthens awareness, not because the mind becomes perfectly still, but because you stop judging its movement as a problem. You begin to understand that presence is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you choose, moment by moment. The modern world is designed to pull you away from this choice. Screens compete for attention. Responsibilities fragment focus. Even rest is often filled with stimulation. In this environment, returning to the present moment becomes a radical act. It is how to stay calm and positive without withdrawing from life. You are still engaged, still responsive, but no longer scattered. The Buddha taught that the present moment is the only place where freedom can be found. The past exists as memory. The future exists as imagination. Both influence you, but neither can be lived directly. When anxiety arises, it almost always points forward. When regret appears, it points backward. Buddhist lessons for anxiety gently redirect attention to what is actually happening now. The feel of the breath. The contact of the body with the ground. The sound of the room around you. In this immediacy, anxiety loosens its hold. To find peace in chaos does not mean eliminating disorder from life. It means discovering that even within movement, there is stillness. Even within noise, there is silence. When you return to the present moment, you touch something stable beneath changing conditions. This stability does not resist chaos. It holds it. Returning is especially important when emotions and thoughts feel overwhelming. The mind may insist that something must be resolved immediately, that clarity is required before you can rest. Buddhist wisdom offers a different approach. Rest first. Resolve later. When the nervous system settles, insight arises naturally. When the body feels safe, the mind becomes clearer. This practice transforms your relationship with time. Instead of constantly leaning into the next moment, you inhabit the one that is already here. You notice small details that were previously overlooked. The rhythm of walking. The warmth of a cup in your hands. The subtle shift of light during the day. These details ground awareness and restore energy. Protect your energy is not about doing less. It is about being fully present with what you are doing. To live without fear is not to deny uncertainty. It is to stop abandoning the present moment in favor of imagined futures. Fear feeds on distance. Presence shortens the distance until fear has nothing to stand on. In the present moment, you can breathe. You can feel. You can respond. This is enough. Returning also teaches humility. You see how often the mind wanders. You see how little control you actually have over thoughts and moods. Instead of becoming discouraged, you soften. You stop demanding perfection from yourself. This gentleness is not weakness. It is intelligence aligned with reality. In relationships, returning to the present moment changes how you listen. Instead of preparing your response, you hear what is being said. Instead of projecting assumptions, you notice tone, expression, silence. This presence creates connection. It reduces conflict. It allows understanding to emerge where reactivity once dominated. When you feel lost, returning becomes a compass. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost do not point to distant answers. They point to immediate experience. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice your breath. Acknowledge what is here without labeling it as right or wrong. In doing so, direction begins to reappear, not as a fixed plan, but as a sense of alignment. Over time, the habit of returning becomes natural. You catch yourself sooner. You spend less time lost in thought. Even when you do drift, you no longer judge yourself harshly. Each return is a small act of freedom. Each moment of presence is a step toward transforming your mind. Buddhist teachings remind us that enlightenment is not somewhere else. It is not hidden in special experiences or perfect conditions. It is revealed in ordinary moments when awareness is clear and ungrasping. Washing dishes. Waiting in line. Breathing through discomfort. These are not obstacles to the path. They are the path. As you listen to daily Dharma listening, you are already practicing this return. You have chosen to pause, to listen, to be present. If these reflections support you, if they help you reconnect with clarity and calm, you may choose to subscribe, to like, or to share this space with others who are searching for steadiness in a restless world. In doing so, you help keep this practice alive, not as an idea, but as a lived experience. Return now, once more, to this moment. Nothing else is required. Part 6. Understanding impermanence in everyday life. There is a truth that runs quietly beneath all Buddhist teachings, simple in words yet profound in impact. Everything changes. Not as a threat, not as a tragedy, but as a fact of existence. Impermanence is not a philosophical concept meant for distant contemplation. It is the living texture of daily life, unfolding moment by moment, breath by breath. When this truth is ignored, suffering deepens. When it is understood, even partially, freedom begins to appear. In the modern world, impermanence is often resisted. People search for stability in careers, relationships, identities, and opinions, hoping to secure something that will not shift. Yet Buddhist wisdom gently reveals that clinging to what must change creates tension. It is like trying to hold water in a closed fist. The tighter the grip, the faster it slips away. Buddhism for beginners often starts here, not with renunciation, but with honesty about the nature of experience. Look closely at a single day. Moods rise and fall without asking permission. Energy fluctuates. Conversations change direction. Plans are altered by small, unexpected events. Even the body you inhabit is not the same from morning to night. Cells renew. Sensations shift. Fatigue appears and fades. None of this is personal. None of it is failure. It is life moving as it always has. Buddhist teachings point out that suffering often comes from wanting what is pleasant to stay and wanting what is unpleasant to leave. This resistance creates a constant undercurrent of dissatisfaction. How to stay calm and positive begins with noticing this habit. When joy appears, the mind tightens around it, afraid of loss. When discomfort arises, the mind pushes it away, afraid of pain. Both movements create strain. Buddhist lessons for anxiety are deeply connected to impermanence. Anxiety thrives on the illusion that feelings and situations are fixed. It convinces you that what you feel now will define what comes next. Yet when you observe carefully, you see that anxiety itself is unstable. It fluctuates in intensity. It pauses. It shifts when attention changes. This observation weakens its authority. To find peace in chaos, you must see that chaos itself is a form of movement, not a permanent state. Even the most turbulent periods of life contain moments of stillness. Even the longest storms have breaks. When you stop demanding certainty from changing conditions, you become more adaptable. You move with life instead of against it. The Buddha used the image of a burning flame to describe existence. A flame appears continuous, yet it is constantly changing. Fuel is consumed. Heat shifts. Light flickers. There is no single, unchanging flame, only a process unfolding. In the same way, the self you protect so fiercely is not a fixed entity. It is a flow of sensations, thoughts, memories, and habits. Seeing this clearly is not frightening. It is liberating. To transform your mind, you must allow this understanding to sink beneath intellectual agreement. You must see impermanence directly. Notice how a strong emotion dissolves when not fed. Notice how a thought loses power when not repeated. Notice how pain changes when met with attention instead of resistance. These observations are not abstract. They happen in your body, in your breath, in your immediate experience. Protect your energy by releasing the need to control outcomes that cannot be fixed. Much exhaustion comes from fighting change, from replaying what has already happened or worrying about what has not yet arrived. When you recognize that change is inevitable, effort becomes more skillful. You act where action is possible. You rest where acceptance is wiser. To live without fear does not mean expecting life to be predictable. It means trusting your capacity to meet what changes bring. Fear often arises from imagining future pain without acknowledging present strength. Buddhist wisdom redirects attention to what is actually happening now. In this moment, you are breathing. You are listening. You are capable. This realization grounds courage in reality rather than fantasy. Impermanence also transforms how you relate to others. When you see that moods and behaviors are temporary, you take things less personally. A harsh word is seen as a passing expression, not a permanent judgment. Affection is appreciated without possession. Loss is grieved without denial. Relationships become more honest when they are freed from the burden of permanence. When you feel lost, impermanence offers an unexpected comfort. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often point to this truth. Confusion does not last forever. Uncertainty is not a destination. It is a phase. When you stop demanding immediate clarity, understanding unfolds naturally. Just as seasons change without effort, insight emerges when conditions are ready. In daily practice, impermanence invites presence. If everything changes, this moment matters. Not because it can be held, but because it will pass. Awareness sharpens. Appreciation deepens. Small experiences are no longer overlooked. A quiet walk. A shared smile. A moment of rest. These are not insignificant. They are life itself, appearing briefly before transforming into something else. Buddhist teachings do not ask you to detach from life emotionally. They ask you to engage without clinging. Joy is fully felt because it is known to be fleeting. Sorrow is fully honored because it will not define everything. This balance creates resilience. You bend without breaking. You grieve without being consumed. As impermanence becomes clearer, a subtle shift occurs. You stop demanding that life match your expectations. You become curious instead. What is this moment teaching? What is arising now? This curiosity replaces fear with openness. It transforms resistance into learning. Remain attentive to change, not as a problem to solve, but as a truth to understand. In this understanding, freedom quietly grows. Part 7. The gentle strength of non-attachment. There is a quiet misunderstanding that often surrounds the idea of non-attachment. Many imagine it as emotional withdrawal, as indifference, as a cold distance from life. Ancient Buddhist teachings point in a very different direction. Non-attachment is not about caring less. It is about caring without gripping. It is the difference between holding something with open hands and clenching it tightly out of fear. One creates freedom. The other creates pain. In daily life, attachment hides in familiar places. Expectations about how people should behave. Assumptions about how life should unfold. Stories about who you must be in order to be worthy. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to erase these tendencies overnight. It asks you to see them clearly. When attachment is seen, it loosens naturally. When it remains unseen, it controls quietly. Buddhism for beginners often introduces non-attachment through simple observation. Notice how the mind reacts when plans change unexpectedly. Notice the tension when something you enjoy is threatened. Notice the discomfort when praise fades or criticism appears. These reactions are not mistakes. They are signals. They reveal where attachment lives and how it shapes experience. Buddhist lessons for anxiety are deeply connected to this insight. Anxiety often arises from attachment to outcomes. The mind insists that things must go a certain way for you to be safe, respected, or happy. When reality moves differently, fear intensifies. Non-attachment does not mean abandoning goals or responsibilities. It means releasing the belief that your well-being depends entirely on specific results. To find peace in chaos, you must learn to stay present even when expectations collapse. This is not resignation. It is flexibility. When attachment loosens, you respond to circumstances as they are, not as you wish they were. This responsiveness is powerful. It conserves energy. It sharpens perception. It allows wiser action. The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering, not because desire is wrong, but because clinging distorts relationship. Wanting becomes demanding. Enjoyment becomes possession. Fear arises from the belief that losing something will diminish your worth. When you observe this closely, you see how suffering is constructed moment by moment through mental habits. To transform your mind, you practice letting experiences be what they are. When pleasure arises, you enjoy it fully without grasping. When discomfort arises, you meet it without resistance. This balance is subtle and requires patience. It is learned through repetition, through many small moments of noticing and releasing. Protect your energy by recognizing how much of it is consumed by mental grasping. Replaying conversations to secure approval. Planning excessively to avoid uncertainty. Holding on to resentment long after a situation has passed. Each of these tightens the mind and exhausts the body. Non-attachment relaxes this grip. It allows attention to return to what is actually happening now. To live without fear does not mean eliminating attachment entirely. It means understanding its nature. Fear often arises when attachment feels threatened. When you see this connection, fear becomes informative rather than overwhelming. It tells you where the mind is clinging and invites you to soften. In relationships, non-attachment transforms connection. Love becomes less about ownership and more about presence. You listen without needing to control. You support without expecting repayment. You allow others to change without seeing it as betrayal. This does not weaken bonds. It strengthens them by removing pressure. When you feel lost, non-attachment offers unexpected clarity. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often point to this truth. Let go of the need to define yourself immediately. Let go of rigid identities and timelines. When you stop clinging to who you think you should be, space opens for who you are becoming. In work and ambition, non-attachment does not mean lack of effort. It means engaging fully while accepting uncertainty. You act with care and integrity, then release the outcome. This approach reduces stress and increases effectiveness. It aligns effort with reality rather than fantasy. Non-attachment also deepens appreciation. When you know that experiences are temporary, you savor them more fully. A conversation becomes precious because it will not repeat. A moment of calm is cherished without anxiety about its end. Impermanence and non-attachment work together to awaken gratitude. Buddhist teachings remind us that suffering is optional not because life is easy, but because clinging is unnecessary. When you stop insisting that life conform to your expectations, you discover a quiet strength. You become adaptable. You become resilient. You become present. This practice is gentle. It unfolds over time. There will be moments of grasping and moments of release. Neither defines you. Each moment of awareness weakens the habit of clinging and strengthens trust in experience itself. Remain attentive to where the mind tightens. Meet those places with kindness. Loosen your grip, just a little. In that loosening, freedom begins to breathe. Part 8. Meeting suffering with compassion and clarity. At a certain depth of practice, attention turns towards something unavoidable. Suffering. Not as an abstract idea, but as a lived experience woven into the fabric of human life. Ancient Buddhist teachings never promised a life without pain. They offered something more honest and more radical. A way to meet suffering without adding layers of fear, resistance, and self-judgment to it. In everyday life, suffering often appears quietly. A sense of dissatisfaction that lingers even when things seem fine. A heaviness in the chest during moments of uncertainty. A sharp ache of disappointment when expectations are unmet. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to deny these experiences or rush past them. It asks you to turn toward them with clarity. Buddhism for beginners sometimes approaches suffering with the hope of eliminating it quickly. Yet Buddhist teachings emphasize understanding over escape. When suffering is resisted, it tightens. When it is examined with awareness, it reveals its causes. Much of what we call suffering is not the raw experience itself, but the story layered on top of it. The belief that it should not be happening. The fear that it will never end. The judgment that something is wrong with you for feeling it. Buddhist lessons for anxiety often return to this point. Anxiety intensifies when discomfort is interpreted as danger. The body tightens, the mind races, and the cycle reinforces itself. When awareness steps in, the cycle slows. Sensation is felt directly. Thoughts are observed without agreement. Space opens between what is happening and what is being believed. To find peace in chaos does not mean avoiding suffering. It means learning how to be present with it. When suffering is met with attention rather than resistance, it changes character. It becomes workable. It becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. This shift does not remove pain instantly, but it transforms your relationship to it. The Buddha spoke of compassion not as sentimentality, but as a clear seeing of suffering and a willingness to meet it without turning away. Compassion begins inwardly. When you notice your own pain and respond with kindness rather than criticism, something fundamental shifts. You stop adding suffering to suffering. To transform your mind, you must allow yourself to feel what you feel without labeling it as failure. Many people carry a quiet belief that they should be beyond pain by now, more healed, more stable, more confident. This belief creates an endless comparison with an imagined version of yourself. Buddhist wisdom gently dissolves this comparison by returning you to reality. This is what is here now. Meet it fully. Protect your energy by recognizing how much is lost to self-judgment. Harsh inner commentary drains strength and clarity. When suffering arises, and the mind responds with blame or impatience, exhaustion follows. When suffering is met with understanding, energy returns. Not because the pain disappears, but because resistance no longer consumes attention. To live without fear does not mean never experiencing distress. It means knowing that distress can be held. Fear often arises from the belief that suffering will overwhelm you. When you sit with discomfort and discover that you can breathe through it, fear loses credibility. You gain confidence in your capacity to remain present even in difficulty. In relationships, compassion changes how conflict is experienced. Instead of seeing disagreement as a threat, you recognize it as an expression of suffering on both sides. This does not excuse harmful behavior. It clarifies it. When you respond from clarity rather than reactivity, communication becomes more honest. Boundaries become firmer and kinder. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often return to compassion as orientation. When direction is unclear, begin with kindness toward what is present. Confusion is met with patience. Uncertainty is met with curiosity. Pain is met with care. From this ground, insight arises naturally. Suffering also connects you to others. When you stop isolating yourself in your pain, you recognize its universality. Everyone struggles. Everyone feels inadequate at times. Everyone carries unspoken fears. This recognition softens judgment and opens empathy. Compassion becomes less about fixing others and more about understanding shared humanity. Buddhist teachings emphasize that suffering has causes, and causes can be understood. Clinging, aversion, and ignorance shape experience in subtle ways. When you see these patterns, you begin to interrupt them. Not through force, but through awareness. Each moment of understanding weakens the habit of suffering. In daily practice, meeting suffering with clarity looks simple and challenging at the same time. You pause when discomfort arises. You feel the body. You notice the story forming. You choose not to add to it. This choice may need to be made repeatedly. Each time, it strengthens the capacity for presence. Over time, suffering becomes less personal. You still feel pain, but you no longer define yourself by it. You see it as part of the human condition, arising and passing like all phenomena. This perspective does not diminish the experience. It contextualizes it. It prevents suffering from consuming the entire field of awareness. As this understanding deepens, compassion becomes spontaneous. You respond to yourself and others with less judgment and more patience. You listen more deeply. You speak more carefully. You act with greater wisdom. Not because you are trying to be better, but because clarity naturally expresses itself as care. Remain with suffering as it appears. Do not rush to resolve it. Let understanding unfold. In this gentle attention, suffering reveals its impermanence, and compassion reveals its strength. Part 9. Seeing clearly through the illusion of control. At some point, often without warning, a deep exhaustion surfaces. Not physical tiredness, but a quieter fatigue that comes from trying to manage everything. Trying to predict outcomes. Trying to prevent mistakes. Trying to hold life in a fixed shape. Ancient Buddhist teachings recognize this exhaustion as a signal. Not of weakness, but of insight beginning to form. The mind is starting to see the limits of control. From an early age, control is taught as safety. Plan carefully. Anticipate problems. Stay ahead of uncertainty. These habits are rewarded, yet beneath them lies constant tension. Buddhist wisdom does not reject planning or responsibility. It questions the belief that control can eliminate uncertainty. When this belief is examined honestly, cracks begin to appear. Buddhism for beginners often encounters this realization gradually. You notice how much effort is spent worrying about things that never happen. You see how often plans change despite careful preparation. You observe how people act in ways you could not predict or prevent. Slowly, it becomes clear that control is partial at best, delusory at worst. Buddhist lessons for anxiety are deeply connected to this insight. Anxiety feeds on the illusion of control. It whispers that if you think hard enough, plan enough, prepare enough, you can guarantee safety. When reality inevitably disrupts this belief, anxiety intensifies. Letting go of control does not increase danger. It reduces unnecessary suffering. To find peace in chaos, you must distinguish between influence and control. You can influence your actions, your responses, your intentions. You cannot control outcomes, other people, or the flow of life itself. This distinction is liberating. When you stop demanding control over what is uncontrollable, energy returns to what is possible. The Buddha taught that clinging arises not only to pleasure, but to certainty. The mind wants solid ground, fixed answers, guarantees. Yet life moves like a river, never pausing long enough to be grasped. When you release the demand for certainty, you begin to move with the current instead of fighting it. To transform your mind, you practice noticing where control tightens the body. The jaw clenches. The shoulders lift. The breath becomes shallow. These sensations are signals. They tell you the mind is trying to manage something beyond its reach. When you notice this, you soften. You breathe. You allow uncertainty to exist without immediately trying to resolve it. Protect your energy by releasing unnecessary vigilance. Constant monitoring of future possibilities drains attention from the present moment. When you allow life to unfold without excessive interference, awareness becomes clearer. Action becomes more effective because it is grounded in reality rather than fear. To live without fear does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means trusting that you can respond to what arises. Fear often comes from imagining future scenarios without acknowledging present resources. Buddhist wisdom returns attention to what is here now. In this moment, you are capable. In this moment, you can choose wisely. This is enough. In relationships, the illusion of control appears as attempts to manage how others feel or behave. You try to avoid conflict, to secure approval, to prevent disappointment. When these efforts fail, frustration grows. Non-control brings honesty. You allow others to be as they are. You speak clearly. You listen openly. You accept that connection cannot be forced. When you feel lost, the urge to control often intensifies. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost invite the opposite response. Pause. Stop searching for immediate answers. Allow uncertainty to breathe. Direction emerges not from force, but from clarity. When the mind relaxes its grip, intuition becomes audible. Control also shapes identity. You try to control who you are seen as. Competent. Calm. Successful. When this image is threatened, suffering arises. Seeing through control reveals that identity itself is fluid. You are not required to maintain a fixed version of yourself. You are allowed to change. Buddhist teachings emphasize that liberation is not found in mastering life, but in understanding it. Control promises mastery. Awareness offers understanding. One tightens. The other opens. When you choose understanding, you gain flexibility rather than rigidity. In daily practice, releasing control looks ordinary. You notice when plans change and resist the urge to panic. You allow conversations to unfold without scripting them in advance. You rest when tired instead of pushing relentlessly. These moments retrain the nervous system. They teach safety through presence rather than dominance. As this understanding deepens, trust replaces control. Not blind trust in outcomes, but trust in process. Trust that life moves according to causes and conditions larger than any single perspective. Trust that you can meet what arises with awareness. The illusion of control dissolves slowly. It does not vanish all at once. Each time you release a little grip, you feel a little lighter. Each time you allow uncertainty, you gain a little freedom. Over time, the need to control loosens, and with it, a deep, quiet peace begins to settle. Remain attentive to where the mind tightens. Loosen gently. Let life breathe. Part 10. Mindfulness as a way of living, not escaping. There is a moment when mindfulness stops feeling like something you do and begins to feel like a way you live. It is no longer confined to quiet rooms or intentional pauses. It moves with you through ordinary hours, through conversations, through challenges, through moments of doubt and moments of clarity. Ancient Buddhist teachings point toward this shift not as an achievement, but as a natural maturation of awareness. In the beginning, mindfulness often feels fragile. You notice the breath, then lose it. You feel present, then drift into thought. Buddhism for beginners sometimes carries the quiet frustration of wanting presence to last longer, to feel more stable. Yet Buddhist wisdom never framed mindfulness as a state to be held. It is a relationship with experience, one that deepens through repetition and honesty. Mindfulness is not an escape from life. It is an intimate meeting with it. When awareness is present, you do not step away from difficulty. You step closer, without being consumed. This is how to stay calm and positive without denial. Calm is not the absence of stress. It is the ability to remain grounded within it. Positivity is not forced optimism. It is clarity that sees both difficulty and possibility without distortion. In daily life, mindfulness reveals itself in subtle ways. You notice when you are rushing and choose to slow down. You hear impatience in your voice and soften it. You recognize tension in the body before it turns into reaction. These moments may seem small, but they quietly transform your relationship with the world. They interrupt habitual patterns and create space for choice. Buddhist lessons for anxiety often emphasize this continuity. Anxiety does not only arise in extreme situations. It creeps into planning, into waiting, into comparison. When mindfulness is present, anxiety is seen early, before it grows dense. You notice the tightening. You feel the breath shorten. You return attention to what is actually happening now. In this return, anxiety loses momentum. To find peace in chaos, mindfulness must move beyond technique. It becomes an orientation. You begin to trust presence more than prediction. Instead of rehearsing the future, you attend to the present. Instead of replaying the past, you feel what remains unresolved in the body. Peace emerges not because life becomes orderly, but because awareness becomes steady. The Buddha described mindfulness as remembrance. Remembering to be present. Remembering to return. Remembering that experience unfolds one moment at a time. This remembrance is not constant. You forget, often. Then you remember again. Each remembering strengthens clarity. Each forgetting is simply part of the process. To transform your mind through mindfulness is to see clearly how thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise together. You see how a thought triggers an emotion, how an emotion tightens the body, how the body influences perception. This seeing is not intellectual. It is embodied. When awareness includes the whole experience, patterns lose their grip. Protect your energy through mindful attention. Notice where your attention leaks into unnecessary worry, comparison, or rumination. When you catch this gently, without judgment, energy returns. Mindfulness is not about controlling attention harshly. It is about befriending it. You guide attention as you would guide something you care about, with patience. To live without fear does not require fearlessness. It requires presence. Fear thrives in imagined futures. Mindfulness anchors awareness in what is actually happening. In this moment, fear may still exist, but it no longer dominates the entire field of experience. You can feel fear and still act wisely. You can acknowledge uncertainty and still move forward. In relationships, mindfulness changes how you speak and listen. You hear not only words, but tone and silence. You notice reactions before they become arguments. You recognize when you are projecting and pause. This awareness does not make relationships perfect. It makes them real. It reduces misunderstanding and increases compassion. When you feel lost, mindfulness becomes a quiet guide. Buddhist reminders when you feel lost often point back to simple presence. Feel your body. Notice your breath. Acknowledge confusion without trying to solve it immediately. In this grounding, direction begins to emerge. Not as a rigid plan, but as a sense of alignment. Mindfulness also reveals joy in unexpected places. When attention is fully present, ordinary moments regain depth. A simple meal becomes nourishment rather than habit. A walk becomes connection rather than transit. Even rest becomes genuine rather than restless. This joy is not dependent on circumstances. It arises from intimacy with experience. Buddhist teachings emphasize that mindfulness is ethical by nature. When awareness is clear, harmful actions become harder to justify. You see the impact of words and behaviors more directly. Compassion arises naturally from this seeing. You act with more care, not because of rules, but because of understanding. As mindfulness matures, it becomes less effortful. You no longer try to be mindful. You notice when you are not. This noticing itself is mindfulness. There is less striving, less self-correction. Awareness begins to include striving and self-correction as experiences rather than problems. In the rhythm of modern life, this way of living offers quiet resistance. It resists fragmentation. It resists constant urgency. It resists the belief that worth is measured by productivity alone. Mindfulness restores a sense of wholeness. You are not only what you produce or achieve. You are a living process, worthy of attention and care. If this way of living resonates with you, if you feel something steady forming beneath the movement of your days, you may choose to continue this journey with daily Dharma listening. You may choose to subscribe, to like, or to share these reflections with others who are searching for clarity in a busy world. In doing so, you help keep this ancient wisdom alive, not as doctrine, but as lived experience. Remain here, aware of this moment. Mindfulness is not elsewhere. It is already unfolding, quietly, wherever you are. Part 10. Mindfulness as a way of living, not escaping. As this understanding settles, something subtle yet profound begins to change. You stop asking mindfulness to save you from life, and you allow it to walk with you through life as it is. The breath becomes a quiet companion rather than an object of effort. Awareness becomes a background presence, steady even when thoughts and emotions move quickly across its surface. You begin to sense that nothing needs to be pushed away for peace to be present. In moments of difficulty, mindfulness does not disappear. It remains as a soft knowing beneath the experience. You may still feel sadness, frustration, or uncertainty, but you are no longer lost inside them. There is a wider field of attention holding these experiences gently. Within this field, reactions slow down. Choices become clearer. You respond rather than collapse or defend. This way of living reshapes how you understand progress. Progress is no longer measured by how calm you feel or how few thoughts arise. It is measured by honesty, by the willingness to stay present even when experience is uncomfortable, by the ability to notice contraction without turning away. Each time you remain with what is here, mindfulness deepens quietly, without ceremony. You may notice that even when mindfulness fades, something has changed. The return happens more naturally. The gap between losing awareness and finding it again grows shorter. There is less self-criticism, less urgency to fix yourself. This gentleness is not complacency. It is maturity. It reflects a growing trust in the process of awareness itself. Life continues to unfold with its ordinary mix of beauty and difficulty. There are days of clarity and days of confusion. There are moments of connection and moments of loneliness. Mindfulness does not flatten these differences. It allows them to exist without overwhelming you. You learn to stand in the middle of experience, steady yet responsive, grounded yet open. Over time, you may notice a quiet confidence emerging. Not confidence in outcomes, but confidence in presence. You know that whatever arises, awareness can meet it. This knowing reduces fear at its root. You no longer need to escape your life to feel at ease. Ease becomes something you carry, lightly, from moment to moment. This is the quiet gift of mindfulness when it becomes a way of living. It does not remove you from the world. It places you fully within it, attentive, awake, and compassionate. The ordinary becomes meaningful. The difficult becomes workable. The present moment becomes enough. As you come to the end of this reflection, remain for a brief moment with what you feel now. Notice the breath. Notice the body. Notice the simple fact of being aware. This is not the end of anything. It is another beginning, unfolding quietly, right where you are.